You're welcome back to Afia TV News, and as in our conversation segment centered around Nigeria's capital inflow from BRICS surging to $1.27 billion. Well, according to reports, Nigeria's capital inflow from BRICS jumped from $438.72 million in the year ending June 2023 to $1.27 billion by June 2024. And this was revealed by the Vice President of the country, Kashim Shettima, during the 2024 China-Africa Interbank Association Forum that was held in the country's capital, Abuja, on Wednesday. Nigeria has always been open to strategic alliances, he says, that support our domestic growth goals. And this explains our active engagement with the BRICS nations, even as a non-member state, as seen in our participation in the BRICS summit held in South Africa last year, the Vice President stated. Well, according to him, 5 new agreements with China, including Belt and Road Initiative projects, are expected to significantly aid Nigeria's infrastructure development while also strengthening the country's existing strong commercial ties with its major trading partner. During the conference, the First Bank of Nigeria and the China Development Bank underscored how they contributed to bolstering China-Africa economic connections, with an emphasis on strengthening commerce and job creation in Africa. Although South Africa, Ethiopia, and Egypt are the only African countries in the BRICS group, several other countries on the continent are affiliated with the group, specifically as partner nations, including Algeria, Uganda, and Nigeria. In February and later March, Nigeria reiterated that it wanted to send its application to join the BRICS group. Well, joining me now to discuss further is Dr. Emmanuel Chukwuka Johnson, and he's the former vice presidential candidate of the Action Alliance in the 2023 election. Good evening, Doctor, and welcome to the show.
Good evening.
It's good to have you here. So tell us your thoughts on this report by Vice President Shettima acknowledging the gains that we have got from just being a partner nation of BRICS. What's your thought on that?
Well, my thought on that is the report is a welcome one. And then I know that the Vice President is not being political about it, being honest. And that is what we've been conversing, that the involvement with the BRICS can only do us good. You see, just like just this October we declared partnership with BRICS, and now we have seen the effect already on the economy. Imagine when we become a full member, what it will result into. So it is nothing less than what we have expected.
Right. Okay. So, of course, according to him, Nigeria has signed 5 new agreements with China, which includes the Belt and Road Initiative project. These are some of the things that Nigerians will expect to hear, especially when our, politicians or government officials go out to engage with other nations. But sometimes we hear some of these things and we even talk about it in the media, but little or nothing is done. You just hear about it or you read about it. And then, when it comes to follow up on it, it probably sometimes just maybe dies a natural death. What's your take on these 5 new agreements that we've signed with China, which is expectedly, according to him, going to boost Nigeria's infrastructure development and strengthen our existing commercial ties? What's your take on that?
Okay, my take is that, we all of us will know, or rather will come to understand, BRICS is just a club of true friends. And then just having this agreement signed, I know with the good spirit behind BRICS, it's not going to be just a mere word of signing agreement and then it is the end. No, rather, more will still join. But the major concern, just like you expressed, is the willingness of the government to take a step further. If the government would take a step further, then we can be guaranteed of further agreement and then subsequent evidence of such agreements, that will impact the economy and then improve quality of life Nigerians.
Okay, let's talk about the gains that we have. You know, when we talk about what Nigeria has gotten, there's a capital inflow here from last year was $438.72 million, which is in the year ending June 2023. And this year, June 2024, we have an increment to $1.27 billion. Right. Now, with this sort of gains, what areas of the economy would you immediately think that the government would and should focus and, channel such gains? Because quite often we hear of monies coming into Nigeria, exports, gains and all of that. But it just goes into thin air. So what areas do you think that the government should channel, which are the most priority needs of Nigeria at the moment, and not just telling us what we've gotten and then there's nothing to show for it, what we do with the money?
Okay, you see, as it is, because of the situation Nigeria is in now, virtually almost all the areas are actually needed. However, I think the most important area that could impact directly or immediately on the lives of people is transport system. Like airline and then intercity buses and stuff like that. If we can invest in infrastructural development, which will also include the transport system, I think it will make sense. And that actually will give evidence and proof of the government acting. This is where people have direct contacts with government. They can now testify to it. And then considering the fact that now even the cost of transport in Nigeria has gone up too high, not so much many people can afford cost of moving from one place to another, and this has already affected businesses. So if government will be reasonable enough to invest in infrastructure for transport and then others, then the second option I think will also be important is in the health sector too.
Yes, I wanted to ask about the health sector because you are there, and there's a lot of doctors who have left Nigeria, and it's always sad to see how dilapidating, sometimes the health sector have become, because sometimes when our people are ill, they just have to resort to going abroad. How about the education sector and, some other areas that we really need to look at? If you talk about the transportation, some people might argue with you that even our roads, are not so good. The last time we had the Minister of Works talk about the huge projects that's the Lagos-Calabar coastal roads, and well, it's one project too many, because right now it's not so talked about as it was, at the onset. So what would you take beyond that?
Yes, virtually, because the development of Nigeria was abandoned, due to failure of government over the years. So virtually all areas, should be needs something tangible. Just like you said, education. Our education is falling. Then health sector is also nothing to write home about. And even our security, social development, and social welfare, all those things. These are, in fact, virtually everything needs to be taken care of. But then we need to set our priorities right. Start with the one that will cause an impact, and then to move towards others.
Okay, let's talk about the transportation that you have just mentioned. We'll veer off a bit and get your pulse on the newly introduced CNG buses by the federal government. Do you think it's a step in the right direction? Because when this administration said that subsidy is gone, a lot of people, stakeholders started talking about CNG. And then we've had incidences, even though some people have said, well, there were fake CNG boxes that were installed in those cars of explosions. So we live in a place where, if we don't take time, this might just be more harm than good. Let's get your thoughts on the, introduction of the CNG buses by the federal government, which they've said, okay, the president has said, well, if you still want to get yourself fuel, you can, but the government is, making an alternative by making sure that the CNG buses and maybe CNG vehicles are very much available. What do you think?
Okay, my opinion is that the introduction of the CNG buses for public transport is a wrong step. In fact, it's a proof that the government doesn't care about the safety of the people. Like a country like Nigeria should not be talking about CNG buses. One thing about the CNG buses is that there has never been worked out safety measures for CNG buses. Now look at the situation in Nigeria with the high level of insecurity and terrorism in Nigeria. Giving out these CNG buses like you are giving the terrorists a free hand of what to use to operate. So it doesn't make sense. And then coupled with the fact that Nigeria is a country with almost zero emergency response. And then we just talk about our health sector that is almost in coma. So how do we introduce such in terms of emergency? So I feel like it's a completely wrong step. Nigeria is not developed for emergency for CNG buses. We should be talking about other means, like electric buses, which is safer than the CNG buses. So my take on this is that Nigerians should know that their own safety is in their hands. The government, from over the time, has proven this, that the safety of Nigerians is in their hands. The government has never even come out to provide, or rather to show how they care about the populace. So it's for Nigerians to be cautious. And I don't advise anybody to enter any CNG bus in any way because there's no guaranteed safety in CNG buses.
Your thoughts when you said, well, it's like giving the criminals and it's giving insecurity a leeway. What exactly do you mean by that?
Okay, with the high level of inflammation, of gases. Mm-hmm. Even to today, people who have gases in their house, we hear instances of explosions and stuff like that. And then for the recent time now in Nigeria, we have heard about explosions of vehicles that are made of this CNG. So now, imagine a situation where, God forbid, I'm not just saying it, but a leader should be able to see the future. You don't need to be carried away, because of mere attempt to satisfy your ego or rather for personal interest. But look at the future beyond the people you are leading. Imagine a situation where terrorists hijack a public transport, a bus. What do you think it will be difficult for them to make use of the gas in the vehicle to cause explosion?
That's a tough question there. Well, let's also get your thoughts. But I know that you're from Enugu State and this very well concerns you. So just recently when Governor Peter Mba presented the budget, just a few days ago, he had talked about getting Enugu Air. So that's something that, it's, in the waves here. So speaking about having Enugu Air, introduced into the into Enugu State. And a lot of people have said, well, it's a welcome idea, whilst some people are saying every governor wants to have, or government wants to have their own air transportation system. So do you think it's a bogus initiative that they're about to, take up on? Or do you think that Enugu is, old enough to have its own air? Because I think maybe they're taking the lead from Akwa Ibom. And what about the maintenance? Do you think that the Enugu State has all it takes to maintain their own air?
Well, I think it's a bogus, of course, it's a bogus admiration or intention, because first, how are we doing with intracity transport system? Are we doing good with that? Do we have buses? How can we describe Enugu transport system? Still workable. Now, also, I heard the governor is also planning for train system also, and then now Enugu Air. Well, if it succeeds, that is good. We want something good, but then let us know the capacity of Enugu, and then the ability, just like you just said, the maintenance. It's not even only maintenance, the acquisition of how many aircraft are we going to get and which route are they going from. Will this be immediate need, or what is driving the governor to go for that? We might not know. Maybe for commercial, maybe it feels like we're going to get more income, from running the air transport system. Well, if it works, that's good. But to me, I think we should focus on what will impact on the lives of the citizens, which if the governor wants to think it well, let's focus on interstate buses, or rather city buses. Let's fix that one so that people can move from one end of the state to another. From there, we can now move to other higher means of transport.
We hear you loud and clear, Dr. Chukwuka Emmanuel Johnson. And we'd like to, stop the conversation here for tonight, but we want to thank you for affording us your time on the news tonight. Tell us what you think about our topic for tonight. Thank you so much for joining Afia TV News tonight.
Thank you.
That's all that we can take for tonight right here on Afia TV News, streaming live from Enugu, Nigeria. And on behalf of the entire production team, I am Amazing Grace Ajayi. Thank you so much for joining us, and good night.